A Texas city spent $250,000 on a brand new dispatch and record management system for its police department. But records show just 1 year later, the city is ditching the new systems and cutting ties with the developer. This week on Inside the Investigation, senior investigative producer David Barrere explains the issues city officials claim they faced during their brief experience with the software. Welcome to Inside the Investigation, and today I'm joined by our senior investigative producer, David Barrere. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so David, you've been looking into this $250,000 payment that the City of Pflugerville made last summer. What, first of all, prompted you to start looking into this?
So it all started with a tip we got in our inbox. It was an anonymous email we got from someone. I presume they were in Pflugerville or knew somebody in the Pflugerville Police Department, and it said the email said that they had invested a fair amount of money in this computer-aided dispatch system, and it did not work out the way that they wanted, and they weren't really able to use it. And so that's how it started, with an email.
Well, before we go any further, for the listeners that don't know, explain what computer aided dispatch, what it does.
Yeah, so backing up a little, Pflugerville is a smaller city north of Austin. It has its own police department, and the dispatchers use what's called a computer-aided dispatch system, or CAD, and that basically it's an electronic software system that routes officers and things to calls. And there was also a record management system tied into this whole software sort of bundle. And so that would, provide records to officers, route them. And this is people don't talk about it a lot, but it's a really important thing that police officers use and the dispatchers use to quickly route and efficiently route people where they need to go, provide information on the fly, so that everyone knows what's going on, where to go, where people are, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it could be the difference between how quickly someone gets to a life-saving emergency.
That's right.
So, okay, you started digging and you found that things didn't go as planned. What did the city have to say about all of it?
Not a whole lot. We reached out to the city. We got this tip. We started doing our research. We reached out to the city to sort of learn what had happened. There's a certain amount of documents that are just available online through the city council's website, but didn't really shed a whole lot of light on what had happened. So we reached out to the city and asked for comment. We asked for an interview. We asked all the city council people to talk to us and such. And we really didn't get much of an explanation of what was going on. So the city council did provide a brief statement that said that the software that we were looking into hadn't really met the needs that they had, and so they had reverted to their old CAD system. Beyond that, we didn't get much more information from the city.
And I remember when you got that email that was saying, it didn't meet our needs. And I remember the question was, what needs? What was wrong with it? And it kind of left us with more questions than answers. And you, from there, using your great investigative skills, were able to figure out what really was at the heart of the problem. Explain that.
Yeah, so we went through the Public Information Act and we requested records that, like emails from city officials as they were discussing what was going on with this software, and we also got as a document that was like an internal assessment that the city had made to sort of give an all-encompassing look at the issues that were associated with this rollout of the CAD system. So basically what they were saying behind the scenes was that they were struggling to get information to like transfer to officers in a timely manner. The way that the software was transferring information wasn't quite working right. And so also to back up, I don't think I've mentioned that the software was called Athena. It was originally created by a company called Information Integrated Computer Systems, or ICS. So they were using this ICS system. Their previous CAD system was called Spillman, and so they were trying to move from Spillman onto the new Athena system. So as you know, like with computer software systems and information, you have to sort of integrate two before you can move one over. You have to share information. Information has to be pulled from one to the other. And that sort of transfer was not working properly the way that they expected. And so the ultimate problem with that, we're like getting down in the weeds, but what really happened was that officers just weren't getting, the city said officers weren't getting the information that they needed quickly, and there were delays, and they weren't getting all the information that they needed to use. And so that was really becoming cumbersome. Yeah.
I can only imagine. I mean, police, you want them to be able to get this information in a quick manner. You don't want there to be any delay when especially when they're trying to assess an emergency. David, there were 69 problems that were laid out in this report. And I know you've given us the broad view of what the issue was, but tell us more about what those 69 problems were.
Yeah, so the internal assessment that we got laid out in great detail all of these issues that this CAD program that they were encountering with it. Like you said, there were 69 bullet points there, 44 of them. So the majority of them were labeled. They had like levels of criticality. I'm not sure the right word. How critical the issues were, 1 to 5, and 44 of them were labeled as a 5 out of 5. So the most critical level that they felt the problem was. The data transfers, like I said, were not working properly. So the city had to run both their old program and their new one, Spillman and Athena, in tandem, like in parallel, to be able to get the information that they needed. So as you can imagine, just from a fiscal standpoint, that's not optimal, because you're paying for two systems and the goal was just to use one. The goal was to move on to a new one. So they didn't want to have to keep using the old system and the new one in perpetuity. They didn't really have a timeline for how they were going to get this fixed and just move on to their new stuff. So they said, and here, to boil it down, maybe the most critical thing was this transfer of information and leaving police officers kind of waiting for things when they needed to like move really rapidly. And they said, here's a quote, there are significant delays in the NCIC returns, and that's driver's license information, vehicle information, previous law enforcement interactions, photographs, etc., in the new program, resulting in delays in officers receiving critical information during life-threatening incidents. And that's the end of the quote. So they felt like, police are potentially dealing with a life-threatening situation and they weren't getting the information that they needed quickly. There were a bunch of other things in there, and there were issues with the mapping system. I think I wrote in my report that at one point an officer's location was showing up in the ocean off the coast of Africa. So the map wasn't locating people quite right all the time. And so, yeah, there were some issues there.
So it's making more sense now why the city, despite paying all of this money, why they felt like they had to kind of abandon this new system. I'm curious, the company ICS, did they have any explanation or comment on all of this?
Yeah, they did. Oh, and just to back up a little bit, because I don't think I made it clear, the contract was for $1.25 million, I think, and that was going to go through about 2028. They paid $250,000 at the beginning, and then they haven't made any other payments. They've cut ties. But we did reach out to the company. It's a little more complicated than it seems, because Athena was created by a company called ICS. The procurement of the software, Pflugerville did that with the company ICS, according to all these records and the dates we could find. Another company called Versaterm acquired ICS last spring, and that's around the time that they were implementing the software. So there's a crossover in ownership of it. But we reached out to Versaterm. They made sure to note that the procurement of this software happened before they were involved with the company. And the spokesperson said, I'm going to read this so I don't get it wrong. They generally referred us back to Pflugerville, the agency with the software. But they said that, quote, while we do not comment on individual customer deployments, we're aware of the situation and we remain committed to supporting our customers with tools, training, and guidance they need to operate effectively, end quote. So that's what we got from the company, but by and large, they referred us back to Pflugerville.
Interesting. So City of Pflugerville has now returned to their old system. They, despite putting all this money into a new one that just didn't work out. David, thank you for your reporting and thank you for joining us. And if you're curious, those listening, more about this story, you can go online right now under the Investigates tab and read more. And let us know if you have any questions about this and things that you want us to explore further. David, thank you for joining us. You guys, we release a new episode every Friday morning on the KXAN Investigates podcast. You can also watch us on demand on our KXAN Plus app starting at 1 p.m. You can also find the KXAN Plus app on Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. I'm Kelly Wiley. We'll see you next time.